Have you ever walked away from a conversation, wondering why no one seemed to really hear you? You spoke, but your words floated in the airlight, unnoticed till someone else said nearly the same thing, and suddenly the room nodded. It's not that you're invisible. It's that something in your presence quietly tells others not to take you seriously. You've earned respect through your work, your discipline, your intelligence, but somehow it slips through your fingers the moment you open your mouth. Why? You're in a conversation and something feels off. People aren't truly listening. Your words don't seem to land. Someone else repeats what you just said, and everyone reacts attentive, engaged as if it's suddenly valuable. You contribute again, but it's brushed aside, forgotten. You leave the moment wondering, what am I missing? Why doesn't my presence command the respect I deserve? The truth isn't about your skill or intelligence. It's not about how capable, experienced, or educated you are. The real reason lies in subtle, almost invisible behaviors, small patterns that quietly broadcast one message to everyone around you. Don't take this person too seriously. And here's the hard part, you don't even realize you're sending those signals. Status isn't built on money, titles, or external achievements. It's built on how people feel when they interact with you, on your tone, your posture, your energy. Every small choice you make in language and behavior either elevates or lowers your perceived strength. Right now, whether you see it or not, some of those habits are silently draining your presence, costing you respect in every room you walk into. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." But certain behaviors, though harmless on the surface, can blur your true character. They can make you appear uncertain, weak, or apologetic even when you're none of those things. Today, we'll uncover 8 common behaviors that instantly lower your status. Nearly everyone does them without noticing. Number 5, in particular, seems innocent, but is quietly destroying the way people see you by the end of this video. You'll know exactly what's been undermining your confidence and how to eliminate it for good, so that your presence finally commands the respect your character deserves. If you're tired of being overlooked or not taken seriously, this is where it changes. Subscribe now for timeless Stoic wisdom and practical lessons that build real respect. Behavior. #1. Apologizing for things that don't require apology. You say it all the time. Sorry for bothering you. Sorry to interrupt. Sorry for asking. Sorry to take your time. You apologize for everything, for asking questions, for existing in spaces you belong, for simply taking up air. You think it's polite. You think it's considerate. But what you're really saying is, I don't think I deserve to be here. Every unnecessary apology lowers your status instantly, because beneath the surface, it translates to, I'm sorry for existing. I'm sorry you have to deal with me. And people hear that even if unconsciously. They treat you exactly how you've told them to, like someone who doesn't belong. I once watched someone do this in every interaction. Sorry to bother you. Sorry, I know you're busy. Sorry, one quick question. They thought it made them professional, respectful. But over time, their voice faded in the room. People began to overlook their ideas, not because those ideas were weak, but because their own words said, even I don't believe what I'm saying matters. Then I noticed another person in the same role, same job, same skill set, but they never apologized unless it was truly necessary. They spoke directly. They asked questions confidently. They didn't rush to shrink themselves before speaking. And suddenly, people listened. They were taken seriously. They were respected. The only difference: the absence of needless apologies. So here's what you need to understand what we said before. Stop apologizing for existing. Because apologizing when you've truly done wrong is strength. It's owning your mistake, taking responsibility for your actions. But apologizing for being here, for asking honest questions, for taking up space you already have the right to, that's not humility, that's self. It quietly tells the world, I don't believe I belong. And if you don't believe you belong, why should anyone else? Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He wrote, "You have been formed of three parts: body, breath, and mind. Of these, the first two are yours only in the sense that you must care for them. But the third alone is truly yours. You occupy your place in this universe for a reason. You were given this moment, this space, this voice, so don't apologize for being in it. Your existence is already legitimate. You belong exactly where you are. So when should you apologize? Only when you've made a mistake, when you've caused genuine harm, when you've spoken or acted unfairly. That's when apology becomes noble, when it restores trust and integrity. And when shouldn't you apologize? When you're asking a question, when you're contributing ideas, when you're making reasonable requests, when you're simply existing in a space that you've earned through your work, your presence, your character. Instead of sorry for interrupting, try saying thank you for your time. Instead of sorry to ask, say, I have a question. Instead of sorry to bother you, say, do you have a moment? The difference seems small, almost invisible, but is powerful. One phrase lowers your energy, signals submission, and instantly reduces your perceived status. The other projects calm confidence, equality, and presence. Stop apologizing for existing. Start occupying your space without waiting for permission. Because every unnecessary apology chips away at the respect you've built until there's nothing left but quiet self-doubt. But now, let's move to something even more subtle, and you're probably doing it right now without realizing. Behavior number 2, constantly seeking validation and approval. You make a statement and immediately follow it with, does that make sense? Is that okay? What do you think? You can't let your words stand on their own. You need confirmation before you can trust them. You think you're being collaborative, open, and inclusive, but you're not. You're sending a message that says, I don't trust my own judgment. Every time you chase validation, you hand away your power. You tell people your words only matter if they approve of them. And once they sense that, they stop trusting your judgment, because you've already shown them you don't trust it yourself. I knew someone who did this every single time they spoke. Here's what I think we should do. Does that make sense? I believe this works. Is everyone okay with that? They thought they were being kind, respectful, checking in. But what really happened? People stopped seeing them as a decision maker. When leadership opportunities appeared, they were overlooked, not because their ideas were weak, but because their words said, I can't stand behind my own thinking unless you approve. Another person, same environment, same role, spoke differently. They said, here's the plan I recommend. Here's why it works, then stopped. No need to ask for reassurance. If someone disagreed, that was fine. Discussion followed. But the absence of constant validation seeking communicated something powerful: confidence, trust in one's own mind. That person got the leadership role, same quality of ideas, same intelligence, but completely different perception. Theirs A crucial difference between seeking input and seeking validation. Seeking input sounds like, "What's your perspective on this?" Or "I'd value your thoughts." It's collaboration between equals. It shows you're confident enough to invite other viewpoints. Seeking validation sounds like, "Is this okay? Does that make sense? Are you sure?" It's not collaboration, it's seeking permission to think what you think. And it tells everyone around you, "I don't fully trust myself." You see, confidence isn't loud. It's not arrogance or dominance. It's quiet trust in your own judgment. The kind Marcus Aurelius mastered long before us. Marcus made decisions and stood by them. He didn't need constant approval from those around him to feel certain. If someone had a valid counterpoint, he listened with calm attention. But he didn't preemptively ask everyone, "Is my thinking acceptable?" That's not collaboration. That's insecurity disguised as humility. When you make a statement, let it stand. You don't need to cushion your words with hesitation or seek permission to believe in them. And if you do want another perspective, ask for it directly, not as validation, but as genuine input from an equal. Say, "I'd value your thoughts on this approach." Don't say, "Is this okay with you?" The first invites collaboration and mutual respect. The second silently begs for approval. Trust your judgment enough to let it exist without needing constant reassurance. If you're wrong, don't worry, someone will tell you. You don't need to pre-approve every thought you have before speaking. Epictetus once taught, "Make the best use of what is in your power." Your judgment is within your power. Use it, trust it, and stand by it. Every time you seek validation, you hand that power away to everyone else in the room. So stop asking if your thoughts are acceptable. Start trusting them enough to stand on their own. If you've ever caught yourself ending sentences with "does that make sense?" and realized you were unconsciously giving away your authority, pause for a moment. And as a reminder, right below, "I trust my judgment." That small shift from seeking validation to standing firm in your reasoning will not only change how others perceive you, it will inspire them to do the same. Validation-seeking slowly destroys confidence. But what comes next? Something even more subtle, and you're doing it right now without realizing. Behavior number 3. You make yourself small. Take a look at yourself in this moment. How are you sitting? Are your shoulders hunched forward? Is your chest collapsed? Your arms crossed tightly in front of you? Are you shrinking into the chair, trying to take up as little space as possible? You think no one notices. Everyone notices. Your body is speaking before your words ever do, and it's shouting a message far louder than your voice. I don't belong here. Please don't pay attention to me. People read body language before they hear a single word you say. And when your posture silently announces low status, nothing you say afterward can undo that first impression. You've already told them, "Don't take me seriously," and they don't. I once watched 2 people in the same meeting, both equally intelligent, both highly skilled. The first sat upright, shoulders relaxed but open, posture steady, taking up the natural space their body required. The second slouched forward, arms crossed, head tilted down, trying almost to disappear. When they spoke, the difference was striking. The first person's ideas sparked conversation. People leaned forward, asked questions, engaged thoughtfully. The second person's ideas were acknowledged briefly, then forgotten. Not because the ideas were worse, but because their body had already whispered to everyone, "I'm not important. What I say doesn't matter." Same qualifications, same experience. Completely different levels of respect earned. The only difference: physical presence. One person's body said, "I belong here." The others said, "Please don't notice me." Your body language creates a feedback loop. When you make yourself small, you feel less confident. When you feel less confident, you shrink even more. When you shrink, others read that as weakness and treat you accordingly. The cycle reinforces itself until you become nearly invisible, even when you have something valuable to say. Social psychologist Amy Cuddy's research proved this works both ways. That body language doesn't just reflect confidence, it also creates it. You remember what Amy Cuddy proved, that your body doesn't just reflect confidence, it creates it. The moment you change your posture, something shifts inside you. Change your body language, and you don't just change how others see you, you change how you see yourself. Stand differently, and you'll feel different. Feel different, and you'll act different. Act different, and people will respond to you in a completely new way. Powerful body language isn't about aggression or domination. It's not about trying to look intimidating. It's simply about not apologizing for existing. Your shoulders roll back naturally, not stiff or forced. Your chest stays open, not caved in. Your head remains level, not tilted downward. Your arms are relaxed, open, or neutral, not crossed protectively like armor. You take the space your body naturally needs, without shrinking or exaggerating it. Marcus Aurelius captured this perfectly when he wrote, "Stand upright, not held upright." Confidence should be natural, not performed. Your body should quietly express that you belong exactly where you are. Not that you're trying to dominate the room, and not that you're trying to disappear from it. Just here, steady, grounded, present. Practice this even when you're alone, especially when you're alone. Stand tall, shoulders back, chest open, head level. Feel the difference in your breath, in your thoughts, in the quiet power that starts to rise from within. Because when your body changes, your mind follows. And when your mind changes, your presence transforms. Carry this posture into every interaction. Your body earns respect long before your words ever get the chance. People sense stability before they understand logic. They read confidence before they hear content. Physical presence signals status instantly. But the next behavior number 4, isn't about how you stand. It's about how you defend behavior. #4. You over-explain and over-justify your decisions. Someone asks why you made a certain choice, and instead of answering simply, you launch into a full defense. You list every possible reason, explain every factor, address objections no one even mentioned, as if you're standing trial for your own judgment. You think you're showing thoroughness, intelligence, credibility. But in reality, you're signaling something else entirely. I'm not confident in this decision. I need to convince you and myself that it was the right one. Strong decisions don't need long explanations. They stand firmly on their own merit. When you over-explain, what you're really saying beneath all the reasoning is, "This choice is weak, and I know it. That's why I need to defend it so hard." And people pick up on that energy instantly, even if they can't put it into words. I once watched someone get asked a simple question about a decision they'd made. They could have answered it in 2 short sentences. Instead, they gave a 10-minute speech, listing every detail, predicting every counter-argument, defending from angles no one had even considered. They thought they were saying, "Look how carefully I thought this through." but what they really showed was insecurity. If the decision was solid, it wouldn't need that much armor. Then I saw another person in the exact same situation. They said calmly, "We looked at the options. This was the best path forward." That's it. 2 sentences, clear, steady, confident. If anyone had follow-up questions, they were ready to answer, but they didn't preemptively defend against attacks that weren't coming. The contrast was striking. The first person seemed desperate to prove they were right. The second simply was right, and everyone could feel it. Same decision quality, completely different status signals. Here's the paradox. The more you justify a decision, the less confident you appear in it. Strong decisions require minimal explanation. Direct, calm, and self-assured. Here's what we're doing. And here's why. Weak decisions require elaborate defense. Because deep down, you're not just trying to convince others, you're trying to convince yourself. So when is detailed explanation appropriate? Only when the decision is genuinely complex. When people need to understand your reasoning in order to execute it effectively. That's not defense. That's leadership. What we said, leadership isn't about defending your choices endlessly. It's about standing by them with calm clarity. When you're teaching someone your decision-making process, or when someone specifically asks for your reasoning, keep it brief, informative, and neutral, not defensive. But when does a valid explanation turn into over-justification? It happens when you explain without being asked. When you start addressing objections no one raised. When you defend yourself against attacks that aren't happening. When you treat a simple choice like it's some monumental decision that needs a 10-page essay to prove its worth. That's not thoroughness. That's insecurity wearing the mask of professionalism. Marcus Aurelius made hundreds of decisions a day as Emperor of Rome. He didn't waste time crafting long defenses for each one. He made the call, moved forward, and, if questioned, gave a concise answer, clear, steady, and composed. He didn't preemptively argue with critics who hadn't even spoken yet. He trusted his own judgment, enough to let his decisions stand on their own. So when you make a decision, do the same. If someone asks why, explain briefly. We evaluated the options. This made the most sense because of X. If they have further questions, address them directly, but don't launch into long, nervous justifications that no one asked for. Because when you do, you're quietly communicating, "I'm not sure this decision was right." And sometimes, deep down, you might know that's true. Seneca once wrote, "He who suffers before it is necessary, suffers more than necessary." Defending your decision before anyone challenges it is exactly that, suffering before it's needed. Wait for real questions. Then answer them calmly, clearly, confidently. Your decision should speak for itself. It doesn't need a wall of words to hide behind. Trust your decisions enough to let them stand without endless defense. If you're wrong, you'll learn. If you're right, the results will prove it. Either way, over-explaining only weakens the impact. And if you've ever caught yourself over-explaining a simple decision, watching as people's confidence in you dropped with every extra sentence, remember this moment. It's not the words that build trust. It's the quiet certainty behind them. So, if this lesson resonates, subscribe now, because the next 4 behaviors will reveal more subtle ways. You might be lowering your status every single day without realizing it. Behavior number 5. You're always available and you respond instantly. A message comes in, and you reply within seconds. An email arrives, you answer immediately. Someone asks for your time, and before thinking, you say yes, of course. You think you're being professional, reliable, responsive, showing that you're on top of things. You're not. You're sending a very different signal. I have nothing more important happening. I'm just waiting for you to need me. My time has no real value. Immediate availability doesn't show dedication. It shows desperation. It tells the world, I'm not in demand. I'm not busy with meaningful work. You can reach me anytime because nothing else competes for my attention. And here's the truth. People unconsciously assign value based on scarcity. What's always available is rarely respected. I know two people in nearly identical roles. The first responded to everything, texts, emails, meeting requests, within minutes. They thought, I'm being so professional, so efficient. But the result? People respected them less. They were buried in extra tasks, constant pings, endless demands, because their behavior said, my time isn't valuable. The second person took longer to reply, sometimes a few hours, sometimes later in the day. Not because they were playing games, but because they were actually busy doing important work. When they did respond, their messages were thoughtful, complete, decisive. And the reaction? Completely different. People respected their time, sent fewer trivial requests, and valued their attention more. Both had the same competence, the same quality of work, yet their perceived status was worlds apart. One was taken for granted. The other was treated as valuable. The only difference was response time. Here's what you need to understand. Scarcity creates perceived value. If your time is always open, it seems worthless. If it's measured and intentional, it commands respect. What we just said, scarcity creates value. And this truth doesn't just apply to time. It applies to everything, products, opportunities, and people. When you're always available, you're no longer scarce. When you're not scarce, you're no longer valued. Not because people are cruel or ungrateful, but because human nature works that way. People instinctively assign importance based on demand. Those in high demand aren't immediately available. Those in low demand always are. So when is an immediate response appropriate? Only in genuine emergencies, situations where timing truly matters, where a delay could cause real harm or chaos, or when you've specifically committed to being available for a certain purpose at a specific time, but not for every random message or request that crosses your path. Marcus Aurelius and Seneca both warned about this centuries ago, about guarding your time like a precious resource, because it is time is your only truly non-renewable asset. You can rebuild money, relationships, even reputation, but not time. Once given away, it's gone forever. And when you give it away freely, instantly, to anyone who asks, you're telling the world, my time isn't worth much. And people will believe you. They will treat your time exactly as you've treated it, as something disposable. So build in response time. Not to play power games, not to appear aloof, but because you actually have meaningful work happening. Priorities that require focus. Take hours, not minutes, to reply to most things. That pause shows thoughtful consideration before commitment. It's not being unresponsive. It's being respectful of your own time and teaching others to respect it too. When you respond immediately to everything, you're training people to expect that you'll always be there, that your time is open, unlimited, free free to take. And soon, they'll act accordingly. But when you set boundaries, when you respond intentionally and on your terms, you train people to value your time. They learn that your attention isn't automatic, that it's something to be earned and appreciated. The paradox is simple yet powerful. The more available you make yourself, the less people value your access. The more intentional you are with your availability, the more valuable your presence becomes. So stop being instantly available. Start being appropriately responsive. When you do, your perceived status shifts immediately. Instant availability signals low value. Measured availability signals self-respect, behavior, #6. You constantly use weak qualifier words. Listen closely to how you speak. I think maybe we should kind of consider this approach. It's sort of like this option. I just wanted to say we probably should do this. Every statement buried under layers of hesitation. You think you're being polite, diplomatic, humble, trying not to sound too aggressive or too certain. But in reality, you're quietly destroying your credibility with every weak word that slips out. Each qualifier, maybe, kind of, just probably, drains your sentence of strength. It tells people, I don't fully believe what I'm saying. It whispers, I'm hedging in case I'm wrong. Don't take this too seriously. And guess what? Your ideas don't get ignored because they're bad. They get ignored because they sound uncertain, buried under so much softness that no one can find the real message. I once watched someone give a presentation and say, I think maybe we should kind of consider probably moving forward with this approach. By the end of the sentence, no one even knew what the actual recommendation was. They thought they were being careful, diplomatic, not pushy. But what people really heard was, even they don't believe this idea is right. So why should we? Then another person, same meeting, same proposal, said simply, we should move forward with this approach. Here's why. Direct, clear, confident, no qualifiers. And guess what happened? It was approved immediately. Not because the idea was better, but because it was presented with conviction. The first sounded uncertain. The second sounded competent and credible. Same content, completely different outcome. And here's the part most people miss. You're probably doing this right now without realizing it. Common weak qualifiers include, I think, before every opinion, maybe, before every suggestion, just before every request, kind of, before every statement. Each one chips away at your authority. What we said every time you use weak words like maybe, kind of, or just, you quietly give away a piece of your confidence. Each little phrase, maybe we could, I just wanted to, I think we should, sounds polite on the surface. But underneath, it tells people, I'm not sure. Don't take this too seriously. When you constantly soften your language, you weaken your ideas. You make yourself sound uncertain, even when you actually know what you're talking about. Of course, there are moments when qualifiers are appropriate. When you're truly unsure, it's honest to say, I think this might work, but I'm not sure. That's not weakness, that's honesty. Or when you're clearly separating opinion from fact, it's fair to say, I think this is the better approach. Instead of this is objectively better, that's using qualifiers with precision and integrity. But when you start stacking them in sentences where you do believe what you're saying, it's no longer humility, it's hesitation. Let's look at it side by side. Weak. I just think maybe we could kind of consider this approach. Strong, this approach will work. Here's why. Weak, I sort of feel like this might be a good idea. Strong, this is the right move. Same core message, completely different impact. One fades into the background, the other commands attention. Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus both taught the same timeless lesson. Say what you mean, and mean what you say. Don't hide behind a wall of maybe, kind of, or sort of. Either your statement is worth saying, or it isn't. If it's worth saying, say it directly. If it's not worth saying directly, don't say it at all. Try this exercise. Record yourself speaking for a day. Then count how many times you use phrases like I think, maybe, probably, kind of, sort of, just. You'll be surprised, and maybe even a little embarrassed, by how often they appear. Then start removing them. I think we should do this becomes we should do this. Maybe we could consider becomes we should consider. Kind of like this approach becomes this approach works. At first, the shift will feel uncomfortable. You'll think you sound arrogant, but you don't. You sound confident. There's a difference. Arrogance is pretending to be certain when you're not. Confidence is stating clearly what you truly believe. Qualifiers don't make you humble. They make you forgettable. Your ideas deserve to be heard clearly, not buried beneath layers of Speak directly. Say what you mean. Let your words carry the strength they deserve, because weak qualifiers destroy the power of every statement. Behavior number 7. You make excuses when mistakes happen. Something goes wrong, and the first thing you do is explain why it wasn't your fault. The traffic was bad. The supplier didn't deliver. Technology failed. Someone on the team messed up. 5 minutes of reasons why the problem was beyond your control. You think you're providing context, protecting yourself from unfair blame, but you're not. You're sending a louder message. I don't take responsibility. I'm controlled by circumstances. Don't trust me with anything important. Excuses lower your status faster than the mistake itself ever could. Because mistakes show you're human. Excuses show you lack accountability. People need to trust that when they give you responsibility, you'll own the results, good or bad. I once watched 2 people miss the same kind of deadline on different projects. The first person immediately launched into a long explanation, traffic delays, vendor issues, software glitches, communication breakdowns. They thought they were protecting themselves. But what everyone heard was, this person can't be trusted with responsibility, because they'll always find someone else to blame. The second person handled it differently. They said, I missed the deadline. Here's what I'm doing to fix it and make sure it doesn't happen again. 10 seconds. No excuses. Just ownership and action. They didn't mention traffic. They didn't bring up the delays. Even though those problems were real, they simply took responsibility and fixed it. The difference in how each was perceived. Massive. One lost trust. The other earned respect. What happened in that story? 2 people faced the same challenge, but the reactions couldn't have been more different. The first one made excuses and lost trust. The second one took ownership and earned respect. Both dealt with the same external problems, delays, obstacles, setbacks. But the difference wasn't in the situation. It was in how they responded. One blamed circumstances. The other owned the outcome. Here's the paradox most people never see. You think excuses protect your reputation, but in reality, they destroy it. Because every excuse you make quietly sends this message: I'm at the mercy of external factors. I don't control my outcomes. I'm a victim of my circumstances. And that is the complete opposite of high status. High status doesn't mean arrogance or perfection. It means ownership. It means saying, if something goes wrong, I'll fix it. I don't need to explain my way out of responsibility. So when is context appropriate? Only when it's useful. When there's a systemic issue that truly needs to be addressed to prevent it from happening again. And even then, it should come after you've taken responsibility, not instead of it. It sounds like this: here's what happened. Here's how I fixed it. And here's the system change to make sure it doesn't happen again. That's context, clear, brief, and constructive. Not a 5-minute defense filled with reasons why it wasn't my fault. Marcus Aurelius lived this mindset. He owned his actions and their consequences without blaming people, luck, or the world. He accepted that some things were outside his control. But his response was always his own. And he owned that response completely. Epictetus echoed the same truth. Some things are within our control, and some are not. What's always in your control is how you respond. So own that every time you make an excuse, you hand over that ownership. You're saying, my outcome was determined by something outside me. That's not leadership, that's low-status thinking. The high-status response to mistakes is simple and powerful. Acknowledge it directly: I made an error. Fix it immediately: here's the solution. Prevent it: here's how I'll ensure it doesn't happen again. That's it. No long explanations. No blaming traffic, technology, or teammates. Just ownership, action, and prevention. Own your outcomes, even when outside factors exist. Especially when they exist. Because everyone faces challenges. But not everyone takes responsibility for them. What separates high status from low status is never the size of the problem, it's who makes excuses and who takes. Ownership. Excuses destroy trust faster than failure ever could. And once that trust is gone, so is your influence. But the next behavior, the final one, is even more damaging behavior. #8. You seek validation and attention through complaints. You know the type. Someone asks, how are you? And they sigh, I'm so busy. I'm so stressed. Haven't slept in days. There's just too much going on. Every conversation turns into an update on how overwhelmed they are. They think they're showing how hard they work, how committed they are, how in demand their life must be. But they're not. What they're really communicating is, I can't handle my responsibilities. I'm maxed out. I'm barely keeping my head above water. And the message that follows is clear. Don't trust me with anything more important. Complaining about being busy doesn't make you sound important. It makes you sound incompetent, like someone who can't manage what they already have. Because if you can't handle what's on your plate now, why would anyone trust you with a bigger opportunity or a higher position? I've seen this play out over and over. Two people with equally demanding schedules. The first one complains constantly. Every meeting, every coffee chat. I'm drowning. I'm working late every night. I'm exhausted. I haven't had a break in weeks. They think this builds sympathy or admiration. But what it really builds is doubt. That story, one person complained constantly. The other handled everything quietly. The first thought, if people know how hard I'm working, they'll see how valuable I am. But that's not what others saw. What they actually thought was, they're drowning. They can't handle it. They're already at their limit. Then there was the second person, same workload, maybe even busier. But when asked how things were going, they simply said, busy, but managing well. That was it. Calm, composed, no drama. They didn't broadcast their struggle. They carried it with quiet control. And when the promotion opportunity came, the result was predictable. The calm, composed one got it. The complainer didn't. Not because they worked less hard. They didn't. But because their constant complaints painted them as someone already overwhelmed, already stretched too thin, someone who couldn't handle more. Here's what you need to understand. Everyone is busy. Everyone has stress. Everyone faces pressure. The difference is how they carry it. High-status people handle pressure quietly. Low-status people announce their struggle loudly. The first group just gets things done. No fanfare, no self-pity. The second seeks validation, listing every task, every hour of sleep lost, every reason they're exhausted. When you complain about being busy, you're not proving your dedication. You're revealing your poor management. You're showing that you're already maxed out. And here's the harsh truth. People don't promote those who are at their limit. They promote those who can carry a heavy load and still have room for more. That's the busy paradox. The more you talk about how busy you are, the less capable you seem. But those who stay composed under pressure, who quietly handle the chaos, they project strength, not strain. Handling pressure calmly signals competence. Complaining about pressure signals struggle. Look at Marcus Aurelius, arguably one of the most burdened men in history. Emperor of Rome, endless wars, political turmoil, administrative chaos. Yet through all of it, he never complained. He led with calm dignity. He carried the weight of an empire silently, and that quiet strength is what earned him respect that's lasted for 2,000 years. Seneca said it perfectly. Difficulty shows what people are made of. Show it by how you handle the difficulty, not by complaining about it. Your true character isn't revealed in what you say about your struggle. It's revealed in how you carry the load without needing sympathy. Now, to be clear, there is a time to share struggle with close friends, mentors, or people you genuinely trust when you're actually seeking guidance or help. Not attention. That's private, specific, and purposeful. But constantly telling everyone how tired, stressed, or overworked you are. That's not strength. That's validation seeking through victory. And every time you do it, your perceived status drops a little lower. If someone asks how you're managing during a tough season, respond with calm control. Busy, but handling it well. That single phrase communicates competence under pressure, not a plea for sympathy. And that difference between complaint and composure is massive, because one signals strength, while the other signals weakness right at the moment. You're trying to prove your importance, so stop using busyness as a badge of honor. It doesn't elevate your status, it lowers it. Start handling pressure with calm precision. That's what truly builds respect. These are the 8 behaviors that instantly lower your status. Unnecessary apologies, validation seeking, making yourself small, over-justifying your decisions, always being available, using weak qualifier words, making excuses, and complaining for attention. Each one silently erodes how seriously people take you. If you're ready to stop that, subscribe now and keep building Stoic wisdom that earns respect through character, not performance, because status isn't about achievements, titles, or recognition. It's built or lost in small behaviors every single day. Most people do these unconsciously, but awareness changes everything. Pick one behavior that fits you most. Eliminate it this week. Watch how people's responses shift, then move to the next one. Bit by bit, you'll rebuild the way the world sees you, not through words, but through presence. These habits were formed over years, but they can be transformed through conscious practice. Marcus Aurelius said it best: waste no time arguing what a good man should be. Be one, because true status follows character. These 8 behaviors blur the respect your character deserves. Remove them. Let your actions speak, and command the status that reflects who you truly are. Stay calm, stay grounded, stay stoic.